Bianchi Sprint Force eTap AXS Review. But before we start, please support us by pressing the like and subscribe button so that we can continue to provide the latest information about motorcycle and bicycle trend. Also turn on the bell button to get the latest updates. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you. The Bianchi Sprint is designed as an all-rounder performance bike, a jack of all trades that you can take to the weekday crit or a weekend road race, and yet will also be comfortable enough to ride on a long sportive or Gran Fondo. In Bianchi's range, the Sprint sits below the climbing optimized Specialissima and the World Tour proven Oltre. So, it's pretty much on the same level as the more aerodynamically focused Aria. Frame, here we have a full carbon construction, with subtle nods towards aerodynamics in the boxy tube shapes, so it should age much more gracefully than some other more highly optimized aero designs, which quickly begin to look quite dated as research progresses and best practice evolves. The disc brake version takes flat mount brake calipers and has hub spacing of 12 by 100 mm, 12 by 142 mm, which are the standards most manufacturers seem to have settled on, for now at least. The bottom bracket is a press fit, which on a carbon bike I would say is fair enough. Threads can't be cut directly into carbon, so to get a BSA bottom bracket on a carbon bike, a threaded metal sleeve has to be pressed into the frame. Although it would save home mechanics having to buy some new tools, it's easier to see why a bike designer would opt to just forego the sleeve and simply have the bearings pressed into the frame. On well-made bikes with tight tolerances, the issues of creaking that press-fit bottom brackets were initially plagued with are greatly mitigated. No unwanted sounds reared their heads as I rode the Sprint through the second half of the winter and into spring. There are no mudguard mounts, cunningly hidden or otherwise. But whilst we do see some race bikes that have them, such as those from Ribble, their absence isn't really a loss for a bike such as this. In a size 55, the stack and reach are 545mm and 388mm, respectively. These are pretty typical numbers. You do get some bikes that are a little more extreme, such as the aero-focused Aria, but most people will have no problem assuming an aggressive position on Sprint with the right size frame. The head angle and chainstay length for this size are 73 degrees and 413mm, which is a recipe for a pretty snappily handling bike. What's good to see is that the chainstays go down to 410mm in the smaller sizes and up to 415mm in the larger ones. Particularly with carbon bikes where it costs a lot to make different models, many other brands choose to keep the exact same rear end between all the sizes, to the determinant of the handling in the smallest and largest. Finishing kit. The Sprint's finishing kit can be viewed in two ways. On the one hand, it's great to see a 27.2mm seat post and a standard stem/handlebar setup with spacers that can easily be reshuffled. If you haven't gotten your position completed dialed yet, this gives loads of flexibility for experimentation. Seat posts with different laybacks and stems of different lengths are cheap and easy to come by, and there's a whole wide world of handlebars with different ergonomics to try out. You can even give different stack heights a go without having to fully commit by chopping down your steerer tube, unlike with most fully integrated setups. All this makes a huge difference to your comfort and efficiency on the bike, which ultimately result in faster speeds. And so it is really great to see a bike of this caliber being so amenable to getting a good fit. However, considering the price of this bike, it does feel like you are paying a lot of money for equipment that is quite basic. That's not to say it would be better if the finishing kit were much more integrated or made from carbon. The former would lose the excellent compatibility while the latter would cost a lot without really providing that significant gains. What I'd really want is for the money saved on the finishing kit to either result in a cheaper bike or to be spent on the wheels which, as we'll come on to, are also quite basic. But, stepping back a moment, it's quite easy to understand why the spec and the price don't seem to line up. Founded in 1885, Bianchi is the oldest bike producer still running. Part of what you pay is for the brand name and the heritage. Also, in having a more traditional sales model, it's never going to be able to compete with brands that sell directly to consumers. Wheels and tires. The wheels are the Fulcrum 618dB, which are an OEM version of the Fulcrum 6dB. As aluminum wheels go, they're not particularly heavy and, although shallow, they do at least have some depth over a simple box section. In terms of reliability, they've put up a good showing, with the bearings continuing to run silky smooth and the rim still perfectly true. They'd be worth keeping as a set of training wheels, but an upgrade to some deep section carbon rims would be a much more matched complement to the frame. Although the wheels are tubeless ready, the Vittoria Rubino 4 Graphene 2.0 are not. this is probably actually a good choice. Sealant tends to dry out after a few months, so selling a bike with freshly topped up tires does add logistical complications, although some brands do manage it. Because tubeless tires tend not to be as supple as clinchers when run with inner tubes, and as most people tend to stick with the stock setup, it makes sense for the tires to be optimized for clinchers. And the Rubinos in a 28C are a pretty good choice. They are fairly fast rolling and offer good puncture resistance. They're not the best in any respect, but as a reasonably priced all-rounder, they don't detract from the bike and they don't inflate the cost. The frame can take rubber up to 32C, which is very generous for a race bike, making the Sprint a particularly good choice for cobbled sportives.
Thanks for watching.
Drop a like, leave a comment,
and don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.